and welcome to another episode of Strange Planet. We're going to delve into mind control and hypnosis, mass hypnosis on a worldwide scale. And we're going to do that with Jonathan Royle. Jonathan Royle is considered one of the greatest experts on hypnosis, mind control. He's a very controversial figure, stage hypnotist, and the author of Confessions of a Psychic Hypnotist, and also the documentary and web series Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis, which is also available as a book and a web series. We'll tell you all about that in just a moment. Jonathan, welcome to Strange Planet. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Richard. Yeah, it's been a couple of years since we last talked, and wow, hasn't the world been crazy?
It has. It has. It seems to, in some respects, just completely fallen apart. First of all, for people who maybe missed that previous conversation and aren't familiar with the documentary, the web series, the book, Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis, just tell us what it's all about.
Yeah, well, I'm a little bit of an oddball if you listen to the majority of hypnotists in the industry, because they very much disagree with an awful lot of what I state to be true. But I don't just state it to be true. I've been proving it to be true now for over 33 years by actually going out there in the real world and doing it, appearing on television shows such as a thing called The Gadget Show in England that was on Channel 5. People can watch the clips to this, by the way, on my Celebrity Hypnotist YouTube channel. I put the TV stuff up there, but they challenged me to, for example, use hypnosis to get someone to do something they wouldn't normally do. Because most hypnotherapists say you can't make people do things against the moral codes and the values. And as anyone who's done a bit of digging into MK Ultra knows, that is the biggest load of baloney ever, and means that that individual wasn't taught properly, or was brainwashed to believe that by the person who taught them, or that they're scared to tell the truth, that hypnosis type techniques can be used for nefarious negative purposes because they think it might stop them getting clients. Well, I say, no, tell the truth. You know, if you can use, as you can, hypnotic techniques to motivate somebody to murder somebody in a Manchurian candidate kind of way, then surely knowing those techniques will mean that it's going to be a piece of cake for you to help somebody stop smoking or lose weight or overcome their phobia. I think, as flippant as that may sound. So yeah, my background is I was born on the circus. So I grew up in a world of illusion and trickery, because not everything you see at the circus that looks dangerous is dangerous. But by the same token, not everything you see that looks safe is actually safe. I learned a lot of it's inverted, which is anyone who's a viewer or listener who perhaps has explored the works of people like David Icke and similar one will have encountered this idea of a lot of truths in the world are actually the inversion, the upside down or the reverse of what a lot of people kind of make them out to be. And I grew up in that scenario. So I learned to look at everything through the eyes of what's really going on. And that progressed to me from me being the youngest circus clown in England at the age of 3, Flap the Clown, to then going into magic and conjuring tricks, and then progressing into, because I wanted to find a solution to the mental health issues that I had through being bullied as a child at school, into at the age of 14 in 1989, becoming the youngest ever member to be certified as a professional hypnotherapist by the Association of Professional Hypnotherapists and Psychotherapists in England. But I still had a desire to hear an audience clapping and laughing and whatnot. I got addicted to that drug of performance. And that's why I also went into the stage hypnosis side of things. And where I differed from a lot of stage hypnotists was that rather than going on stage and telling people, you can't be made to say or do anything that would contradict their morals or values, I'd say, look, if you get up here and volunteer, bearing in mind this was in the early 90s, before society went woke and politically correct and all this, I would say, I'm going to make you do the most extreme things to prove that I'm getting you to do things that you wouldn't normally do, because otherwise, what's the, excuse the language, effing point of hypnotizing you anyway? You may as well just get up here and do the crazy daft shit like you might do if you'd had too much to drink. No, let's push the boundaries. And I did. And I became, that's how I got dubbed as the British bad boy of hypnosis. And in the early 90s was dubbed as Europe's most controversial, outrageous, and some TV stations dubbed me as the most pornographic. I have to say, although I deserved that title at the time, everything was done within the boundaries of any laws that existed where I was performing. So I did not break any criminal laws at any time. And there are laws regulating this in England and some other places in the world.
But in a sense,
I pushed it.
Right. But in
pushed it as far as you possibly could.
Did you run afoul of the, I mean, did the hypnotist associations, or did they threaten to pull you?
Hated me.
Did they
yeah, oh yeah, they tried to get me banned in all the licensing areas of England at that time in the 90s. And they pointed at me as the person to blame for everything that was going wrong in the industry, because I was the one getting the most media attention. And ironically, I'm glad that happened, because through what happened in the media to me, being falsely accused of saying things I'd never said, or doing things I'd never done, or taking something I had done but twisting it to make it appear to be something it wasn't, I learned firsthand back in the very early 90s that the media actually couldn't give a shit about truth and reality. All they're, well, the legacy mainstream media anyway, all they're bothered about is selling papers, advertising space, making money, and causing, well, doing what the people behind them, and the reason I say people behind them, it sounds a bit conspiracy theory-ish, but you know, when you look during the pandemic, that the media sales were down, ironically. Certainly in England they were anyway. And the government in England, for example, stepped in and gave subsidies and financial assistance to the legacy mainstream media.
That's happening here in Canada. That's happening here in Canada as well.
Okay, so it's not just in England. So, and you know, they're doing it to the, they're giving subsidies to the media that help them get into power by publishing the propaganda and brainwashing they wanted to get them voted for. It's, you know, it's out and out corruption when you look at it, but right. It's hidden in plain sight.
So you're also blowing the whistle on, in much the same way, I guess, that Harry Houdini tried to do, on psychics and mediums, and you have courses on basically revealing how cold readings are done. Can you give me an example?
Okay, Richard. I'm obviously, what I'm about to do is just play acting. Okay, I'll say that up front for the video. So, but I'm just suddenly going to go into psychic persona, which, you know, if you look on my website, magicalguru.co.uk, my career resume, people will see a press cutting there, one of many, from the 1990-91 era, when Psychic News, the international publication, dubbed me in my previous stage name of Alex Leroy as the new Uri Geller and Doris Stokes rolled into one. So they actually endorsed me as being a genuine clairvoyant, psychic, and paranormalist, till I blew the whistle a couple of years later and said, no, it's all been done to show that it's nonsense and people are easily fooled. But anyway, into Alex Leroy persona. Okay, I'm starting to, I'm feeling almost as though I've got an energy and a spirit with me right now. Now, it's a little bit like being a television satellite. Sometimes the weather interferes and the thing can be a bit fuzzy, and you have to keep tuning the telly in. So it might not make immediate sense to you, but I'm getting the sense of an older gentleman. When he passed, I'm feeling he's showing me going like this, as though he had issues before he passed around this sort of area. And I'll be honest with you, it's a little bit hazy right now. I'm not sure if that was breathing or circulatory related, but it's saying to me that you'll know who this is. It'll make sense to you. Does that make sense to you right now, Richard? Just say yes, loud and clear.
Yes.
It does, doesn't it? It genuinely does. And he's saying to me that, I don't know if he's saying you were there or it's actually in your house. That bit's not clear, but I'm being shown. And I can't make out clearly whether it's a cigar box or a tin that's sort of that kind of shape being opened and going through photographs and old documents, but taking them out, and it'd be at least halfway down, more perhaps a little bit further towards the bottom, where there is a significant photo where this gentleman appears, and he's saying that would make sense to you and be proof to you that of who's coming through right now. Does that make sense to you?
The first part, I was there. I was there when my father passed away.
Okay, right. Well, he's saying that there is a tin or a box I'm being shown, but that there's old photos and documents in, and that'll bring back extremely happy memories. When you find that. So, I mean, will you just take that with you and be aware that if you're a relative's house, just ask them if they got a tin or box of old photos, and the one that says yes, if you go through, I'm sure you'll find what's being referred to, right? I mean, I could carry on and on.
Yeah.
The point is that you keep saying yes, and even when it isn't 100% hit, I react in a manner where, well, no, it's at a relative's house. You're going to have to bring it up with them. I'm never wrong. I can always. So it's about improvising in the moment. Here, it's passing. Well, this, I'm covering a big area of my body. It could be heart, it could be breathing, it could be, and I'm saying it dead casual. I'm not sure whether he's trying to show me by doing this, whether it was breathing or circulatory. Well, that can cover hundreds of potential illnesses or ways of passing, can't it?
Are there, though, do you believe that there are, do you believe in an afterlife? Do you believe that there may be, in rare circumstances, people who can contact the other side, or is it all a hoax?
Well, here's the thing. I believe there's people out there that genuinely, sincerely believe in every fiber of their body that they are communicating with the other side, okay? I believe the vast majority of frauds know that, especially high-profile names in the media who have research teams work on their behalf to find out about people before. They've got to be careful what I say. Mm-hmm. But I do believe there's some people, a very small percentage, who genuinely believe, and if connected to a lie detector, they pass because they genuinely believe that they're connecting to spirit. Now, these people have got mental illnesses, okay? They're deluding themselves. Now, am I saying that there's no such thing as an afterlife? Well, again, it may sound paradoxically contradictory, this, but you can't destroy energy. If you burn a table, it becomes ashes and flames, and the flames go up into the air, and the smoke goes up into the ether, it becomes part of the clouds, and then some essence of it, part of it, comes down in the raindrops into the. It's a never-ending cycle. It can't be destroyed. Energy cannot be destroyed. So when our body dies, gives up this motor car that we're moving in, is that the end? Well, it is for the body that's going to rot, but it's going to rot if it's buried and growing to part of the earth and into the trees, and it's a never-ending cycle. It just transforms into something different. But that is nature. That's natural. It's not something supernatural or paranormal. So are there things that are currently unexplained in the world? Yeah, there are. Does that mean it's something paranormal or supernatural? No, it just means we don't understand fully yet how it fits in with nature and normality, maybe. But when your consciousness, if you believe, and I'm not saying I fully do, but if you believe in things like karma, the law of cause and effect, or some of the belief systems of Buddhism, and I'm not on about generalized mainstream religion that's the cause of more wars in the world than anything else, just spiritual belief systems, some of which are still sadly cults to make money, but some little elements that, well, if it's just energy, when the body dies, does that mean the electrical source for our personal consciousness has been turned off like a plug socket? Possibly. But there is evidence out there to suggest that after the body's died, I'm using that term loosely, but after it's stopped working the way that we know as human beings and has died, that some activity can still occur. Or there's these people who say that they can almost see the soul leaving the body. My personal belief is that this is just like a motor car and it packs up eventually. And the essence of us, that feeling of us, that identity, self-identity, somehow lives on, but probably does go to a higher realm. It's learned the right lessons, in which case it's highly unlikely that even if there was a way to communicate with people who are in that realm, that they would respond, because they would be at such a higher level of consciousness that it would be inane drivel coming from us on this earthly level. They just won't have the time for it. That doesn't mean they didn't love you when they were alive. Of course it doesn't. It just means that you've got to perhaps learn lessons from the fact that they're not here anymore as part of this earthly existence. And again, but everything I've just said could also be complete and utter nonsense for all I know, because it's just theories. All I do know is this, that Harry Houdini, for example, left a code word for his wife Bess to know that he was genuinely come back through. And this never happened. Now, people cite the story of one psychic actually coming through with that keyword, but when the research is done, you actually find this occurrence happened after Bess had disclosed what that keyword was to somebody else. Thus, it has a completely natural explanation. So yeah, people should beware. Someone says they can tell you what the future is going to hold. Well, you know what? They probably can be pretty accurate based on who you are as an individual now. If they've learned about body language, learning personality types, and psychology, forget the tarot cards, forget the rune stones, forget the contacting the dead. Just through common sense and psychology, if they have a decent understanding of you as a human being and ask you a few simple questions, they could probably get a gauge of what you like, the way you think, the way you output view on life is, and from that pretty accurately predict what you're likely to do in your life if you don't make a change to the way you think and act. Because if you keep doing things with the same perspective and the way you've always thought, they'll tend to get similar results in life. For something to change in the future, you've got to change the way you think and the way that you act and what you do to get different results. So it's not this big, amazing thing.
All right. Let's take a quick time out. When we come back, I want to talk about how mass hypnosis operates, whether we're talking about advertising, whether we're talking about news. Jonathan Royal stays with us, hypnotist and the author of Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis. Back with more in a moment. Stay with us. Every new season, we find a reason to improve our lives and our health. And C60 Evo organic edible oils deliver noticeable benefits quickly. A spoonful in the morning delivers energy and endurance all day long. And I sleep deeper and wake up feeling refreshed because C60 ESS60 works. Carbon 60 received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1996 when it was used for industrial applications. C60 Evo's ESS60 is a breakthrough technology upgrading C60 to be safe for human and pet consumption. ESS60 has been called a miracle molecule because of the physical and mental benefits people are enjoying. Their lab has a proven track record of 31 years and thousands of happy customers across the world just like me. So, treat yourself, your friends, and your family to C60 Evo and use my link, EVRS, to get 10% off your first order. Again, my link, EVRS, to get 10% off your first order. Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis. It's a web series. It's a feature television documentary. Nat will tell you how you can watch it. It's available everywhere now for free. And we're talking about mind control. To what extent we often hear about neuro-linguistic programming and how that's being used. You kind of poo-poo that, right?
It's just another term, neuro-linguistic programming, so-called NLP. They say it's the science and art of communication. Well, guess what? You've just described what hypnosis is. NLP was just a repackaging of certain hypnotic techniques to get around, one may argue, the laws in certain states of America, where at the time you weren't allowed to call yourself a hypnotherapist without having certain conventional medical qualifications, but repackage it as NLP, and hey, oh, you can use the same techniques and not be falling foul of any laws. It's all communication. You cannot possibly live as a human being or interact as a human being without being affected by hypnosis, which was just a word. All communication has some form of impact. Maybe not always what the person intended. And that's certainly the case when it comes to like sending text messages or just posting the written word on social media. People don't get the tone and inflection or real intention. It can often be misunderstood. But even in face-to-face scenarios where body language is unconsciously picked up on normally, and voice tones and pace and all those kind of things, people don't always get the result they wanted from what they were saying. And that can be because the person that they're saying it to has been conditioned for it to mean something different in their world, their perception, their reality. And our outlook on the world, as it were, it's very much, unless we take a step back and purposely say to ourselves, hey, oh, just because this information is coming from a perceived authority figure, whether that be a politician, a teacher, a professional of long standing in their industry, and this applies to me as well. Don't believe a word I say without independently researching it for yourself and putting it to the test. But we too easily accept what we believe must be reliable because it's in the mainstream media, or because this politician said it, or this famous celebrity said it. The cult of celebrity these days with social media makes people believe it more. And even when people start waking up and they go, actually, it might not all be true. But even when you consciously go, I don't necessarily believe that, if you don't take the time to independently research other possible points of view or explanations, yes, consciously you might have gone, I'm not going to believe that. But the thing is, if by that point you're already running programs in your personal laptop computer, your so-called unconscious conscious mind, which is the result of conditioning from birth, right up to the present day, but generally speaking, the most important period. Sigmund Freud talked about formative years as being birth to 7 years old. I actually personally believe it's birth to around puberty, teenage years, that were more suggestible and get conditioned. And the traumas that we experience, because this relates back to the MK Ultra post-war trauma-based mind control studies that they passed off as being studies for helping military veterans deal with shell shock, as it was called then, but it's now called post-traumatic stress disorder. But through the CIA studies MK Ultra in the States and in England through the Tavistock Hospital, which later became the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, and is now to this day linked in with the British Psychological Society, as we cover in my documentary, Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis. And they have an offshoot in England, in Westminster, called the Behavioural Insights Team, BIT, Behavioural Insights Team, which is affectionately dubbed by the media. They're actually hiding it in plain sight now. They call themselves in the media, or get called, the Nudge Unit. And their purpose is to nudge the mass populace into doing what the political classes want them to do. They're not even hiding it anymore. Now, consciously, people go, oh, look, they're not even hiding it anymore, and yet they still end up influenced by it, by that emotional fear-mongering and confusion and disorientation that's being put out in the world through the scare stories in the media and the narratives that the political people put forward. Because, although consciously they say they're resisting it, an unconscious, subconscious level, until you deleted the negative programs that were running and the beliefs that were already installed through your upbringing.
How do you do that, though? How do you do that?
You have to kind of go back in time. And one way of doing that, it sounds like a pitch, but I'm going to tell you how to do it for free. But I cover it in my latest book, Hypnosis, helping you get over the shit in your life and get your shit together. Okay. And in here, there's loads of these things. I had a page full of them then, right in front of me, typical. Loads of these things, QR codes that you can scan that take you to online videos where I walk you through the processes. And one of them is to use your imagination to help you shut down the critical faculty, analytical area of your brain that I liken to being the doorman on a nightclub who's going, no, you're not coming in dressed like that. But we need to distract him so he goes off for a coffee break so we can get in to the club, i.e. our unconscious, subconscious computer, bank, neck-top computer, delete the negative files. It's not that it deletes them completely. It's not like you're going to forget things. It's just the way you will respond to them changes. Okay, the currently conditioned response that's there can be deleted. So one of the processes is to literally get a big pillow or a big cushion, and with your eyes closed and after some nice, deep, gentle breaths, in through your nose and then out through your mouth, in through your nose and out through your mouth. It's kind of a bit like meditation. It's a relaxation exercise, basically, just to help you chill out, relax, and get more oxygen into the bloodstream as well, which helps you feel good. Well, we then piggyback that by going through a process to psychologically relax as well as physically relaxed, all explained in the book. At which point you can choose to imagine that the pillow or cushion you're holding, because your eyes are closed at the time, you can imagine in your mind's eye, it's almost as if it's mini you when you were a baby, then when you were 1 year old, 2 years old, and you go through the years up to, I kind of recommend up to 16, because you've definitely covered the main conditioning years then. And for each year, you use elements of what is known as Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian forgiveness ritual. And in your mind's eye, you imagine saying to the mini you at each age, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. I'm here for you. Everything's going to be okay. It's not your fault. And there's a number of other this sounds flippant saying it like this, but these are very impactful phrases that had the little mind of the 1 year old you heard at that time and been able to understand, of course, then the way something was imprinted on your mind wouldn't have been, as it was for the 1 year old mind, traumatic. Because now as an adult, if that 1 year old thing experienced it, you deal with it entirely differently, but it's frozen in time. And there can be many of these things at different ages. So I show you a process where you can go through each of the years yourself, safely, in the comfort and privacy of your own home, and kind of allow the frozen in time imprints to become unfrozen. So the unconscious, subconscious mind can then deal with them in the manner that you would do now as an adult. But you as an adult now will suddenly find that you see things more clearly and metaphorically grow up because you're not being anchored down and held down by those emotional anchors weighing you down of the self-blame, shame, guilt, and regret of the young mind over those years. It's a process that makes a whole bunch more sense when you follow the QR codes to the interactive videos in the Hypnosis book. But what I've said essentially is the core essence of it. That's, you've got to go in and free that's frozen in time, so it can allow you then to not just consciously think the way you do now as an adult, but so that when you do that, it's in harmony with the personal laptop computer, and therefore what you want to happen is more likely to happen, whereas people consciously go, oh, I'm going to ignore that, or I'm not being affected by it. But if it resonates more at an unconscious, subconscious level, and that's just a metaphor, these are all constructs. Nobody actually can prove 1,000,000% the way the brain works. All I can say is that the constructs that I describe in the book, and I've just mentioned here, have worked massively well for me over the past 33 years, helping people in the real world to overcome the habits, addictions, fears, and phobias, and also to free themselves from what's been labeled these days post-traumatic stress disorder, which is really little more than, and I don't mean that to sound flippant, because it can have a really devastating impact on people till it's dealt with. But really at heart, it's nothing more than an imprint in time being frozen in that moment of emotion and not having been dealt with and released. And you just need a process that allows you to deal with it and release it. So all the negative emotions, energies, and connections and associations are then dissipated and gone. And so that on all conscious and unconscious levels, you realize you don't need to be carrying around any self-blame, shame, guilt, or regret, or remorse, or trauma connected to that, and can finally let it go. In the same way as if I gave a red hot poker to hold on to, you wouldn't walk around with it for the rest of your life, would you? You'd let go of it and drop it. And yet, metaphorically, it's the same thing. People are walking around still holding on to red hot pokers of anchored events from their upbringing. Some of them were accidental events that happened to them. Others were purposely engineered to happen to them by the system, the indoctrination system of schooling, and sometimes teachers telling you you're not good enough, or conditioning you to the idea that you've got to learn. You get nice green ticks of yes, that's right, or red crosses of that's wrong, based on how well you remember what they've told you and then recall and repeat it correctly. They're actually teaching you to memorize, recall, and repeat, and believe and act upon what authority figures, perceived authority figures, tell you. That's the biggest bit of conditioning through I call it indoctrination system, but other people call it education system, from birth.
Jonathan, we'll take another time out and we'll talk about social media. We'll even get into what's happening with Prince Harry, his autobiography, Spare, and what kind of hypnotic control he might be under. Back with more of our conversation right after these. November reminds us to be thankful and focused on boosting our radiant health before winter. And I use a potent remedy that's improved the quality of my life and deepened my sleep as well. I take C60 Evo olive oil every morning, and I have a lot more energy and mental focus all day long. My workouts are easier, and I have a lot more endurance. If you're into competitive sports, this is a game changer. Health is our greatest wealth, and Pura C60 ESS60 really works. ESS60 is a breakthrough technology delivering the carbon-60 miracle molecule for humans and pets. Check out the C60 Evo holiday gift collections for everyone on your list. They make amazing skin, lip, and hair repair serum that deliver noticeable results quickly. C60 Evo's lab has an impressive track record of 31 years and, of course, my personal recommendation. You deserve the best remedies on earth, and so do those you love. Buy direct from the lab and upgrade your life today. Use my code EVRS to save 10% off your first order. Again, my code EVRS and save 10% off your first order. Jonathan Royal is with us, an expert on hypnosis and mind control, extreme danger, extreme hypnosis. This was a feature-length TV documentary. It's also a web series and a book, but the documentary now is available for free everywhere. Tell us where we can watch it.
It is indeed. It used to be you had to pay for it, but then the producers, Richard Willett, who's now working on a massive level with David Icke, Gareth Icke, and Jamie Icke, their iconic online television platform. Well, if you're a member of Iconic, you can already go in the members area and watch it. It's been there since the first day that Iconic opened. But around the same time, Richard and myself agreed to take it off sale and put it on for free If you go to my Celebrity Hypnotist YouTube channel and click on playlists, there is a playlist there called Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis. And that's got the full 1 hour and 50-minute long feature documentary on there, as well as the 9-part web series, which expands on different subjects on a bigger level, and those are then expanded on even more by the book, which is on sale of the same name, Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis, on Amazon and other booksellers. And it covers all different areas of life. So we made it free because the pandemic hit us, and we thought, you know what, if ever a time people need to wake up, it was happening right then. And it's still happening now. I mean, it's always been happening. It's as long as history, his story. Because, you know, the winner of a war is the one that paints the perceived reality.
I wanted
It's
to
always gone on.
right.
It's more obvious now, isn't it, Richard?
Right. Well, we are in now what is, I guess, kind of asymmetrical warfare. And Marshall McLuhan, the great
World War III. Oh yeah, World War III is already happening. People are going, oh, there's a threat of Russia and Ukraine and all this. Well, no. You see, maybe there is a tiny element of potential physical warfare threat going to the next level if they need it to scare people. But at the moment, they're doing a great job of fear-mongering, false evidence against reality or false evidence appearing real, instilling that frozen, you know, there's fight, flight, freeze, and shite. Well, if you get people in that freeze response, rabbit in the headlights of like, what do I do? Shall I run away from the dinosaur or shall I try and kill it? That freeze, I don't know, and then it's too late. Well, that disorientation and confusion state is where the powers that be want people, because you're automatically more suggestible and your critical faculties being closed down and whatnot. And that's where all the nonsense in the media of this is happening, this and that, or this could happen, perceived threats, it's why they do it. It's why they've always done it. The truth is, Lord, World War III has been going on for ages. It's the massive psychological operation. And that's not a conspiracy theory. It is backed up by a few simple facts. For example, the British Army for the past couple of years have been trying to recruit more people for the 77th Brigade. You can search that. They've got their own website where they're openly recruiting for more people, and they say that they deal with psychological warfare, information operations, i.e. manipulating people through social media platforms by fake accounts posting stuff that then end up going viral because the people who own the social media platforms actually allow them to be seen more and shared more and repress other things. And that would have sounded like a conspiracy theory until recently, but guess what? Guess who's come along? And we mentioned this went on in the documentary made in 2019, and I put it down in black and white in 2019. And prior to me, people like David Icke and a whole bunch of other people said it was going on. And people said, no, conspiracy nutters. No, 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 no. Well, you know what? Since Elon Musk has taken over Twitter, look at his own account, and he started the Twitter files, revealing stuff, proving that the previous powers that be at Twitter repressed certain people's stuff from being seen and pushed other people's stuff so it would be seen to influence in elections and other important events around the world. Conspiracy theory proven as conspiracy fact by the current owner of Twitter.
So the big tech, we're colluding with these intelligence organizations to suppress certain memes and messages and information and so forth, whether it was regarding the election or the Hunter Biden laptop story or early treatment protocols for COVID.
Well, they didn't just suppress it. Because there were people who knew about it, they took control of the narrative. Some stuff they'd suppress, but then they still allowed some elements to leak out, because control always works better for them when there's two different opinions out there in the world, and that people can be arguing with each other and in a state of division rather than a state of unity. If the society as a whole were able to put aside political differences and religious differences, where in truth religion at their heart treat one another as you expect to be treated yourself, there isn't really any division except that caused on purpose to keep people divided. The same with politics. You know, if there was any use in us voting, they wouldn't allow us to vote. It's to give an illusion of us having some kind of control. In truth, whoever ends up voted in, generally speaking, ends up doing what the people higher up the tree behind them tell them to do. Otherwise, they disappear, like JFK did, you know, who wanted to remove all control of the banks and whatnot. Boom, disappeared. What a surprise. Follow the money.
Let's talk a little bit about Prince Harry and his
Yeah.
new
This is a great time we
autobiography.
live. We live in such a great time. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people have fallen for the brainwashing of the media, saying that Prince Harry's throwing his family under the bus and, you know, he's twisting things and all this, that, the other. But when you look deeper, most of these people haven't even read his book, or if they've read the book, they have they're pushing this narrative because they work for a newspaper or a legacy mainstream media organization, that it's in their interests to try and make the mass populace believe that Harry is talking nonsense. And why would they have a motive to do that? Well, I have read not all of his book, but I've read certain parts of it so far. And as it happens right now, I have the same barrister as Prince Harry here in England, representing me in my what people would call phone hacking case. It's actually known as a privacy intrusion and unlawful information gathering case against media mogul Rupert Murdoch's News Group newspapers, who in 1998 published various untrue things about me, but used illegal techniques, and that included drugging me without me knowing. Yep, that included hacking my phone and blatantly lying, all things that are explained at circusofthemind.net, and I go into in the documentary Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis, that you can watch on the Celebrity Hypnotist YouTube channel on the 30th of September 2022 in the High Court in London. Easily checked on the internet that I'm telling the truth here with the High Court records. I filed my privacy intrusion claim against them. And Prince Harry's had a similar claim filed against several news organizations. Rupert Murdoch, yeah. The Daily Mail organization. And I think he's got one against Mirror Group as well. Or that might be Meghan, but between them, they have. The three major legacy mainstream media organizations in England. But in the case of like Murdoch, he's worldwide media. He's got stuff in America or Australia, all over the place. He's taking on the most powerful media moguls to show, through his book, he goes into how the media was ultimately, arguably, very responsible for his mum's death, because it was concluded that if there weren't paparazzi chasing, you know, if one cog in the wheel had been different, the easiest one being not being chased by paparazzi, then she wouldn't have died. But also, he's putting it out there, the fact that they've lied about him, they've fabricated nonsense, they blatantly said things and printed things that are untrue, or taken little specks of truth and then elaborated them. And even the bits that are truthful were obtained in an illegal, wholly illegal and unlawful manner that has no legal justification, as will be proven when he wins these court cases.
Oh, I
And
have
the
no
thing is,
doubt that the media. I've no doubt that the media has been very intrusive with him and many celebrities, all celebrities probably. But when he writes in the book about remembering the day he was born and that his nanny was also named Megan, and he remembers his mother, Princess Diana, calling out and thanking the nanny Megan, and then he knew at that moment that Megan was his soulmate.
Well, let's be honest, you know, he's also writing a book to make it entertaining. I'm not saying that isn't what he honestly believes, but the wonderful thing about the human memory is none of our memories are 100% true. Each time you remember something, it's distorted ever so slightly. So could he have remembered those things? Possibly, potentially. But even if he didn't, what he's probably more remembering is somebody around him, possibly his mum, talking about that occurring, about the childcare person when he was younger, at an age when he could then have remembered. And it's all become romanticized together because it does make a lovely narrative. And that's part of the emotional way our brains help us to cope and deal with things sometimes, because there is definitely no question whatsoever, and he would admit it himself, that the numerous traumatic incidents have occurred in Prince Harry's life. Heck, any of us, I don't care whether you're royalty or not, losing your mother, full stop's traumatic, but in the circumstances involved, more so. And, he's also seen frontline combat, and yeah, he's had to deal with, and he's still dealing with, what gets labelled as post-traumatic stress disorder. Of course,
About claiming that he killed 25 Afghans. I mean, that's seems a little out there. I don't know that anyone has been able to corroborate that or even believes that.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that if you look, going back when he was in active service, or just shortly afterwards, that all the British national media, certainly at least, ran stories making him out to be a hero and this, that, the other. And there was mention that he'd been involved in, unfortunately, having, to kill people. But at the time, he was held up as, defending us all type of thing. Suddenly, the media have got a different narrative and a different take on it. Because why? Because they want the mass populace to be on the media side and against Harry, so that people might not pay attention to the fact that he's in the process of it, which he starts in his book as much as he can under the constraints of ongoing litigation through the High Courts, to totally expose Rupert Murdoch's empire, the Daily Mail, and other organisations as the liars and fabricators of nonsense, and also, when there is any truth involved, the people who obtain that through illegal, immoral, and ethical means. And that, if the public were to become wholly aware of that and realise that applies not just to royalty but to so many other people as well, they might actually start to wake up on a bigger scale. The house of cards might start to crumple and people realise, well, hang on, this has impacts on other levels as well, us being politically influenced and this, that, the other. And the truth is, it does. And Prince Harry is probably the only person, everyone else who's put in these unlawful information gathering claims has been effectively forced, because of the way the legal system works, to settle on the doorstep. Because if, for example, newsgroup newspapers offer someone who was claiming against them an amount of damages compensation for what took place that is larger than what the judge would likely award them if it went to a trial in court, if the person turns it down because they want the truth to come out in court, yes, they could go ahead and then win and get the truth out in court and get awarded what the judge thought was right, which could probably be less. And yeah, some people might be able to afford that, but what they can't afford is the fact that in those circumstances, they could end up becoming liable for a whole bunch of legal costs because they didn't accept that bigger offer before going into court. So people have been forced into settling on the doorstep, whereas Prince Harry, well, I hope this is how it pans out, but judging by what's written in his book, judging by what he said on TV interviews, and judging by the severity of the things that have occurred to him and people around him, I don't think he's going to settle on the doorstep. So they're walking very, very scared, these very powerful media people, at what could come out in open court, which would prove that certain people lied under oath and committed perjury in the Leveson inquiry in England into media ethics, and have also previously lied under oath, it may be alleged in court, if things make it to court, in certain previous court trials which would mean that they could end up facing proceedings and possible imprisonment for their previous lies. So there's a lot of people very scared at the moment, and it's in their best interest to paint a very black picture of Prince Harry and his motives and whatnot.
That may all be true, but I think many people who were watching, observing what's happening to Prince Harry and Meghan are wondering about perhaps her role in I don't know, causing divisiveness, driving a wedge between Prince Harry and the royal family. She's being perceived as being manipulative. What are your thoughts there? Does she have some kind of a hypnotic control over him?
It's all a matter of perception, isn't it? You know, of course, she's got some kind of hypnotic control. Anyone in a relationship has some kind of hypnotic control, because hypnosis is just communication with their partner. Where what the better question perhaps may be is her influence being used by her in a conscious, purposeful manner to cause division? And in that regard, I don't think so in the slightest, unless people think that supporting a husband in his quest and aims for the real truth about the way the media contributed to his mother's death, arguably, and has lied and distorted and twisted things, causing heartache both to himself and other family members, not just, you know, most recently to Meghan, but also other family members, including family members who are still part of the establishment in the normal way, who can't speak out because of their dangerously packed with the devil relationship with the media that the Palaces have, and he's got into in Harry's book. So no, I don't think there's nefarious intent from Meghan. I think she's just been a supportive wife, as any husband would, partner would want them to be. But you know, isn't it funny if we look in England that some of the people who slag Meghan off most, named journalists, I'll be careful what I say, but who've previously been accused of involvement with phone hacking and other illegal activities, have become most vocal in slagging off Meghan as well as Harry, and yet they're the ones who potentially end up answering the question of why they lied under oath in previous court cases and could be facing prison terms. You have to look what's really behind it.
I'm wondering about, though, I mean, that's sort of the official narrative, right? That the paparazzi were chasing that car through the tunnel in Paris and caused the crash. But I think there is some, you know, pretty compelling evidence to suggest that that wasn't the cause. That Henri Paul, you know, may have been distracted. This bright light that was shone in the tunnel, and we talked about many times on this program, and I did.
Well, the bright light arguably is from the paparazzi itself, anyway.
Coming in.
So yeah, the bright light could distract him, but bright lights would put down as being, you know, photographers' flashes.
I'm talking about there's
look, there's a whole bunch of other theories out there, yeah, and there are arguments and people who would say that. I'm not saying this, but there's people who would say that she was murdered, and there's conspiracy theories around that. There are, and it's not my place to. That's a semantical thing, because, you know, some might say, even Prince Harry might go as far to say that who knows, in private, he might go as far to say, I can't put words in his mouth, that the paparazzi contributed to her death, and therefore that could arguably classed as murder, but at the very least manslaughter. But on the bigger scale of conspiracy theories saying she was murdered because, you know, perhaps they didn't want her to get married to Dodi, well, there's evidence both ways. I think, you know, let's apply Occam's razor here, keep it simple. Simple things are usually the simplest answers. Could there have been involvement?
Well, there have been some people from MI6 come forward.
Yes, there could.
It's also,
But one of the great ways that could have been done is to manipulate, let's run with this, to manipulate the media, encourage the media, tip off the media to where she's going to be for following purposes, and then just attach your own man to the entourage looking like he's one of the various media that's shown up, so that there were genuine media there, but your man planted becomes the one that helps, piggybacks that to ensure that what your aim is takes place, namely someone meeting a nasty end. Is that possible? Yeah, most definitely so. Do I think it happened? I'd like to stay alive. So yeah, but I think it's highly possible. Highly possible.
Point taken. All right. So
but none of that alters, even if there was a direct kind of black ops operation to murder, even if there was, it doesn't take away from the fact that the end result is that Harry and William's mum died that day. How it happened, we can actually push out of the equation for a second and just go, the end result, whatever caused it, is that she ended up dead. And that from that moment on, William and Harry were hounded by the media, but the media, remember, do to a degree, will back off on certain things if the higher up powers that be tell them to. Or they'll go for things more if they're told to focus on certain things, which is how they manipulate the mass populace into voting for certain political parties, or purposely cause division and arguments so that people don't unite together, or instill fear into people so that they're frozen almost like the cat in the headlights and don't see that more and more of their freedoms are being taken away from them every day. That still took place, whatever the cause of her death was.
We were talking about social media and these mimetic wars, I think you call them, and now Elon Musk has taken over control of Twitter. And do you see an inflection point here? Do you see the tide turning against, let's say the ruling elites, which includes the mainstream media, and their control over us? Are we going to are we going to win this war, or this asymmetrical warfare, information war? What is your prediction?
It'd be nice, and if enough people start to question everything, it's wholly possible. Unfortunately, sorry, I've got to say unfortunately, but as was illustrated by things like, and we haven't time to discuss this in great depth, but things like Cambridge Analytica, which was part of Strategic Communications Limited, I think, off the top of my head. But anyway, Cambridge Analytica, which was a group that, by the British government, was given the status of being classed as a military-grade weapon. And yet all they dealt with was psyops, manipulating videos on social media. So some people saw, say, a video with a certain narrative, and other people saw the same information but presented in a different way, so they get a different belief and it poke a different emotional button, set people against each other during elections so that they could influence and control people. That's not conspiracy theory, it's a fact. It's been alluded to in the Twitter files, and a good colleague of mine, Neil Saunders, who has a website, Neil Saunders, that's Sanders, mindcontrol.com, Neil Saunders, mindcontrol.com, has a full section on Cambridge Analytica and goes into it in great depth. I recommend anyone to look at it. It's an eye-opener to how we've been being manipulated on social media platforms for years. And that's the thing. They've had a lot of rehearsal at this. So, some of the information that's now coming to light, alerting people to the fact that this was taking place and starting to admit it, it's being leaked by them. by people that are controlled opposition from people for them, so that people think they're starting to get a sense of control of things. Because when you are too consciously of a state of mind that you know what's going on, you actually then become blind to what's going on over here, because you think this is what's going on. So they're already enacting that stage now. Am I saying that Elon Musk is a front person for the powers that be? I honestly don't know. I'm going to reserve judgment on that one for now. My gut instinct is that actually I don't think he is, but I could very well be wrong on that one.
Sorry, you don't think he is what? That he's you think he's
That
controlled?
he's part of the. I don't think he is. My gut instinct is I don't think he is part of the controlled opposition. I think he is just releasing stuff because he disagrees with it.
Yes.
I don't know what his real motive is, because we always say follow the money, and you should do. Is it just so that he's got a unique selling proposition? Hey, this is a social media platform that's telling the truth. Is it motivated by profit down the road? Because, you know, if it was happening on Twitter previously, sure as hell it was happening on Facebook as well. I mean, there's people out there and evidence to suggest that Facebook was a fully funded CIA psychological operation from its formation anyway. And that seems even more the case when you look into Cambridge Analytica and how easily they were able to manipulate and control things and such like. So yeah, I do think there's hope for us, but don't think that don't suddenly go, ha, I'm enlightened. This is what's going on. Yes, I've just got to independently research things more. Yeah, no, you've got to keep your wits about you as well, because they will start to leak out some stuff that's true. And then maybe a bit of disinformation as well, but even more powerfully, some stuff that's true. So you think you know the bigger picture, but it's like, let's keep it as simple as this. In I'm taking a rough guess here. I think it was about 1983, 84, 85 here. It could have been as early as 83. Here in England, microwave ovens just were massively expensive to buy. They'd just come onto the market in England. Now, I now know they'd been on sale in America for a number of years earlier, before they kind of became more mainstream here. And now you can buy the same thing for a fraction of the price. But also, we now know that such technology existed in military bases and stuff years before it was ever on sale or known about by the general public. Now, it's not just microwave ovens that applies to. The stuff that they will admit to or start to allow to be leaked out will only be scraping the surface. You know, social media, as we've seen the stories, social media harnessed with nefarious intent can cause people to kill themselves. Now, that happens of its own accord through people maybe disagreeing and getting bullied, through people at school taking it onto social media platforms. We've seen it happen. People have done it. Imagine someone whose intention was to purposely make that happen. Of course, if someone's emotions are manipulated by stuff that they get bombarded with from somewhere they become arguably addicted to going because they want to see another tick of like and appreciation on their post, another emoji that says it's good, and they've got this desperation to see that. Well, if on that platform that they become addicted to going to, someone can quite easily put in front of them the stuff to make them feel really bad about themselves, then yeah, you can push people to death. This is potentially a weapon to kill you, the phone.
I agree. I think I look at a lot of these apps, especially TikTok. It's like the new opium wars. What the British Empire was doing to
Yes.
China, and flooding opium into that country to break the will of the people and to cause dissent and so forth. Now
they're doing it into your hand, into your palm.
Yes. Yeah.
It's mental. And I cover that in my book, Hypnosis, to great depth. Now, this it's kind of marketed on Amazon and elsewhere as being a book to help you overcome habits, addictions, fears, phobias, panic attacks, depression, and health issues you may have from A through to Z. And it does equip you with a whole bunch of tools in that regard, including also having QR codes into virtual online treatment sessions and stuff. And it's only $17. If you put into action what's in here, it could change your life, but on a bigger level than just helping you with those things. Because in here, I talk about the fact that all human beings need to, even if they're not consciously aware of it, but the powers that be know this, need to feel loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished, and valued. And if there's any lacking or imbalance in them, it will have a knock-on effect on that person's level of self-confidence, self-image, self-esteem, and self-control, aka willpower. Any imbalance there has a knock-on effect on their self-worth, their self-love, their self-respect, and their positive selfishness to actually look after themselves. And any imbalance there ultimately impacts their self-identity and can leave them feeling unbalanced and as though there's a gap. Now, some people turn to religion to fill that gap. Some people turn to eating more to kind of bury it. Some drink more alcohol to drown it out. Others smoke to make a smoke screen. There's loads of different metaphors. But the only true, sustainable, healthy way to overcome those habits, addictions, fears, or phobias, or emotional issues is to balance out the way you feel, so that you feel, and feelings are just imagination. There doesn't have to be any basis in reality, but as long as you can feel within yourself that you feel loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished, and valued to a balanced level, then it will balance out and make you, your self-confidence, self-image, self-esteem, and self-control be full, which in turn means your self-respect, self-love, self-worth, and positive selfishness will be balanced out, and your self-identity will be that you feel whole again as a human being, okay? Rather than what a lot of people are stuck in as being a human doing, because they've got imbalances in one or more of those. Everyone's different. It'll be different imbalances for different people. So the big focus of this book is to help you balance those things out, that the powers that be, through the mainstream media and other avenues, through planting stories that instill fear and trauma and disorientation and confusion, get you to self-doubt yourself and get you to start believing that little voice in your head that starts to say you're not worthy, you're not good enough, this is bad. Well, no, the antidote to that is to get that little voice in your head saying you are worthy. This is bullshit, which is part of the reason it's called Hypnosis, helping you get over the shit in your life and get your shit together. So there is hope, but people have actually got to start to take action. It's no good just in the head going, I know what's going on. No, right. You've actually got to be taking daily actions as well.
And also maybe, tuning out or turning off some of those negative inputs like social
media. Oh, yeah. Like, the more of that you can do, the better. Like ration yourself. I'm not saying get off social media. The beautiful thing is they gave us a tool. By giving us a tool, that means you can connect with your aunt the other side of the world on Christmas Day and say hi, and actually see her and talk to her and say, how are you doing? I love you, happy Christmas, and fulfilling you with joy. By giving us that wonderful carrot, it made it easy for them to make us addicted and reliant on appreciation of others liking our post and sharing our post, and they can purposely, that's why you might get random celebrities have it all the time. Now, celebrities who have a lot of followers, okay, it's easier to harness something that people already focus on. So if loads of people are following a certain celebrity, the powers that be, if they want to influence the mass populace, all they need to do is make that celebrity argue with somebody who negatively comments on something they post about. So they would get their PSYOP people to create an account to slag off that celebrity for their viewpoint, so that it causes a row in that social media thread, so that the mass populace on the street become influenced by the results of that, rather than going to it's a lot quicker as well, reaching loads of people at once rather than just one at a time.
Jonathan Royal, Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis, and that's available. Again, how do we watch it?
You basically go to the Celebrity Hypnotist YouTube channel and click on playlists, and there's one called Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis. The documentary's in there, and the web series is in there, and the book of the same name, Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis. Just go to Amazon. I know some people have got this thing. No, I don't want to put money in Jeffrey Bezos' pocket. But that aside, I mean, you can go to another bookstore if you want. You can get it from there. But at least on Amazon, I'll end up getting $1 or $2 royalties from that, or from you buying Shitnosis.
All right. And again, the website, magicalguru.com, magicalguru.com. Jonathan, great to speak with you again. So much to unpack.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. It's been a pleasure.
A new Richard Syrett's Strange Planet drops every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Subscribe at strangeplanetpodcast.com.